Hi everyone, welcome back to Perspective with Babe podcast. My name is Babe, but today you call me Alake because I am featuring our lovely poet Yusuf Alabi Balogun, also known as Gemini. For those who are just joining us, this is the second segment that we're having together. The first part, we spoke about poetry and we spoke about writing. Today we'll be talking about Yoruba spirituality. Now, Gemini is a poet, storyteller, TEDx speaker, and art specialist dedicated to Yoruba arts and culture. Recipient of the Horn of Afro Classic Merit Award in 2018, he has performed on stages from Celebration to the San Francisco International Arts Festival and was the principal performer at the commissioning of the John Randall Center for Yoruba Arts and Culture. Now, we're diving right back into our conversation because it was a beautiful conversation that we had before, talking about Yoruba poetry and constructing it and tonality. We want to know more of what you know, Aremo, in terms of Yoruba spirituality. So I'll be starting with our first question. Hello, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Alake.
It's a pleasure. Now, how are you doing today? Just before we start, are you in the mood? Are you in the spirit?
Yeah, I'm very well. I mean, it's been a hectic day, but this is a good way to round up the night.
Definitely. I'm going to dive right into the first question, okay? You've mentioned your father was an Ifa priest. Can you share about your parents and how they influenced your path in poetry and spirituality?
Well, so my dad was an Ifa priest, and I was one of those few children who did not grow up in the conventional Nigerian home where you either had to choose between Christianity or Islam. While I would say that there was tolerance, because I mean, even while growing up, my mother was practicing Muslim, so there was that liberty to choose your direction of faith or what you believed in. But at the same time, the Yoruba spirituality was ingrained into our consciousness in a way that it was not coercive. So my dad had a shrine for Ogun. He had a shrine for Eshu in the house. So I grew up knowing how Ogun is being worshipped, how Eshu is being worshipped. I see people come around to visit him and say, oh, they want to appease Ogun, and then they go to buy a rooster, they buy palm oil, palm wine, cola nuts, and they do it, and then they kill the chicken, they prepare it, everyone eat it. So right from childhood, I had an understanding. I mean, as children, I and my sister were always looking forward to people appeasing Ogun because we just knew that, oh, it's an opportunity to get a new rooster in the house. So I had an idea of these things. He would wake up, chant certain Ifa verses. Sometimes when he's divining, he was so ingrained in spirituality that even when he's going out, maybe he has a trip or something, he would first have to consult his Ifa. So if Ifa tells him to step out, then he's definitely stepping out that day. But if Ifa tells him to stay back at home, then he's staying back. So we had all of this. I had all of this knowledge, and somehow, unlike children who grew up watching Avatar or Tom and Jerry, I grew up watching movies. I grew up in the spirituality that I believed in because, oh, he's the man in the house at the end of the day. So even the movies we consumed, even the kind of songs we consumed related to his belief system and his choice of what is it called? His choice of spirituality. So by the time I was writing from the cradle, like I would always say, and even if you go back to check all of my notes back then, you would still see heavy doses of Ifa verses or if inspired stories, because those were the kind of things I grew up in. And by the time I, attained age and had a fuller understanding of the Abrahamic religions, Isese, and humanity as a whole, I think it helped translate it into and I still create now.
Thank you for that beautiful answer. So, basically what I'm guessing from this is that you grew up being well immersed in the Isheshe religion. And would you say that Ifa is an aspect of Isheshe, or Isheshe is the name of the religion itself? Can you explain more of that, please?
So Isese itself is not, when people, I think it was in the last episode that we are talking about the issue of translations and how nuances are lost.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people say African traditional religion, I feel like oftentimes it's largely because they want to find a way to fit the word Isheshe into the lingua franca. Because
Okay.
in reality, Isheshe is not a religion. Isheshe is spirituality. Isheshe is medium of our, medium of reaching into the universe. And I would explain Isheshe share. Share means to begin. Share means to begin. Iwashe, by Iwashe, the beginning, the primordial time. Share means to begin, to start something. She means to do something. Isheshe, what we were doing as at the time where we were conceptualized, what we were doing from the beginning. So there's a verse in Ifa that says ìyá ẹni ìṣẹ̀ṣe ẹni, bàbá ẹni ìṣẹ̀ṣe ẹni, ike ẹni ìṣẹ̀ṣe ẹni, orí ẹni ìṣẹ̀ṣe ẹni, which means that one's mother is one's ìṣẹ̀ṣe, one's father is one's ìṣẹ̀ṣe, one's creator, one's the Yoruba concept of Ori is creator largely, is one's ìṣẹ̀ṣe. So when we say ìṣẹ̀ṣe in Yoruba, it goes beyond just appeasing Ogun or casting the Okpele. We believe that the concept of Isheshe stretches to when you wake up in the morning and you know that the first thing or the ethical thing to do is to pray to your Ori, and then afterwards you go to meet your parents in their room, you greet them, you kneel for for your mom, you prostrate, you know that this is the kind of clothes Yoruba people put on. You know that this is the kind of clothes that Hausa people put on. Now, their medium of culture, what we call culture, the total way of life, could safely be regarded as Isheshe. Now, you cannot talk about people's culture without talking about their spiritual beliefs. You cannot talk about, the way of life of people without talking about how they chose to commune with with the universe. If we are going by that logic, it is impossible for us to say that the way people chose to commune with with the universe, or how they chose to commune with the higher forces in this sense, because the Yorubas believe that even dead people are not exactly dead. So when we talk about higher forces, even dead people are part of the higher forces in this regard. So the Yoruba believe that all of these people falls under higher forces, and their medium of communing with them is Isheshe. So it is not necessarily a religion, because religion is an organized structure of faith. Under Isheshe, we have people who worship Oshun, we have people who worship Yemoja, we have people who worship Ogun, we have people who worship Obatala, we have people who worship Shango. Now, maybe we can, bring all of this Shango, Obatala into sects and link it closely to religion. But Isheshe itself is way too larger for us to just say it is a religion.
Okay.
And the same way the Christians have the Bible, the same way the Muslims have the Quran, is the same way the Onisheshes have the Ifa. So they believe that the way there is Jesus in the Christian faith,
Yes.
and there's Muhammad in the Islamic faith, is the same way the Yorubas believe that the ark. I wouldn't call him angel, because Yorubas don't believe in angels, and I wouldn't call him deity either, because Orisha is larger than the word deity. What we call Orisha, and Orisha da, the one who was specially created by the creator or by the head, the one who was specially chosen, Orisha. And Orisha da. So if Orisha means the one who was specially chosen, and such person come to the world and achieve supernatural feats, then we cannot say that such a person is an angel, and we cannot say that such a person is, a deity, because first they were humans that performed supernatural feats, or that that had extremely defined features that were not common in other humans or in other mortals. So Orunmila is believed to be one of the supreme Orishas who had the gift of Ifa. So he left the gift of Ifa, the gift of Okpele. So the Yorubas believe that the entire compendium of the Yoruba culture, how to work, what should be eaten, not be eaten, how to talk to elders in the society, how to respect people in the society. They believe that there is nothing that you cannot find in the compendium of Ifa oracle. So when the Babalawo casts Ifa or Okpele, there are thousands of Odu that anyone might come out. There is a Jogbe, there is Oyeku, there is there is Irete, there is Sanji. There are several Odupa, and each of these couples, they talk about diverse things: politics, love, marriage, war, sexuality. So the same way you open the Bible, you see Genesis, you see Leviticus, you see different segments that talks about different things. It's the same way the Odu Ifa talks about several things: the past, the present, and the future. So Ifa is believed to be the guide. Ifa is believed to be the ultimate guide of the Yoruba, like, oh, what would happen in the next 50 years? They believe that when you consult the Ifa, you would get, you answer there. And it is why when children are given birth to in Yoruba lands, at least it used to be a thing back then, they take them to Ifa diviners and they tell them that they should perform Akosejaye for them. So Akosejaye, okay. So Akosejaye or Esentaye is the ritual performed or consultation performed when a child is newly born. So they believe that by consulting Ifa when a child is newly born, Ifa will tell you everything about the child, the taboos, what he should do, the kind of clothes he should put on when he grows up, the kind of colors he should, work with, the kind of colors he should avoid, the kind of works, professions that he should do, the kind that he should eat, the kind of food that he should not eat, the kind of problems he would face when he grows up, the kind of things that he's expected to do or that he should prepare his mind to encounter, the kind of rituals his parents should do while he's growing up. So by the time he grows up, his predestined journey would come to fruition or fulfillment without so much obstacles. So all of these things still falls back to consulting Ifa. So the same way the Christians have the Bible, the same way the Yorubas have the Muslims have the Qurans and they believe in it, is the same way the Yorubas largely believe in Ifa as the entire compendium of truth, supernatural philosophy and ideology entirely.
Wow. Thank you so much for breaking that down like that. So let me try and piece together some of the things I said. Isese is basically like Yoruba spirituality. Ifa
Yes.
is a religion that is under Isese.
Yes, more like it.
Would you now say that there are different, like Isese can be divided into other kinds of Yoruba Yoruba religions? Or is only just Ifa?
Yes, they are more like sects. They are more like sects because there is Ifa. For example, there are people who are Ifa worshippers, Onifa completely. And then there are people who worship Shango.
Okay, those are the
They are only Shango. That is another sect. Then there are people who worship Eshu. That is another sect.
Yes.
Then there are people who worship Osun Osogbo.
Yes.
That is the Osun Osogbo festival that always holds. There are people who are basically Olosun.
Yes.
That is another sect. There are people who worship Yemoja.
Yes.
There are people who worship
I think come from those people.
But all of these sects, are under the umbrella of
Of
Isese,
Isheshe.
because at the end of the day, they are,
Beautiful.
yes, because they are under the traditional ties at the end of the day. And, the mediums are not so, they are not so different. They are not so largely, different, because at the end of the day, it's still under the Yoruba tradition, it's still under the Yoruba spirituality. Worshipping Shango does not necessarily mean that you cannot consult Ifa. Worshipping Eshu
Yes.
does not mean that you cannot consult Ifa.
So true.
Being an Onifa does not mean that when you are performing an Etutu or when you are performing a ritual, you would still have to perform certain rituals for, for Eshu, for the Yamis. Because the Yorubas they believe that Olodumare, is the, how do I call it? Olodumare is the supreme, Now, you see, Ifa, Eshu, Yemoja, Oshun, Ela, Obatala, they are believed to be his subordinates, earthly messengers. So they believe that they are the intermediaries, they are the mediators of humans to Olodumare. So, for example, when you worship your Ori passes your message or your desire to Olodumare, and Olodumare brings it to manifestation. So if you have a problem, for example, and you are told to appease Eshu, and you appease Eshu, Eshu carries your desire to, Olodumare. So it's more like a mediator, a means to the supreme creator. So whichever sect anyone decides to, go with, you are still under the umbrella of
Mm.
Isese.
Mm.
And by being under the umbrella of Isese, all the appeasements, all the atonement, all the affirmations still go back to
Mm.
Olodumare at the end of the day.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you for explaining that. Now, are you well versed or aware of the signs that somebody may be an initiate of Yemoja without being ordained?
Yes, actually, there's something called Egbe
Okay.
in the Yoruba spirituality. The Yoruba, I will say it in Yoruba and I'll translate it to English.
Mm-hmm.
So the Yorubas believe that uh, tí a ò bá lẹ́gbẹ́, lọ́run, a kì í lẹ́gbẹ́ láyé, kò sẹ́ni tí ò lẹ́gbẹ́ lọ́run. Ẹgbẹ́, when you literally translate it, it means a society. So, for example, if you belong to a group, maybe with your friends or something. I mean, we can call it a society. We have so many societies and all of that. So, Egbe, the literal word that comes close to Egbe is society. But in this sense, it is more spiritual and divine than the regular society. And the Yorubas believe that every human who is born have a society they belong to from, from where they are coming from. And because they have a society they belong to from where they are coming from, they would encounter people who belongs in the same society with them, coincidentally or not, when they get to Earth. And if you belong to a society, it is only expected that you go for meetings.
Mm.
It is only expected that if you are doing parties or if you have an occasion, you participate in it.
Yes.
It is only expected that, if there's a contribution or something where everyone is, paying some dues, monetary and all, you equally pay your dues to be an eligible member of that society and to enjoy the privileges of that society. Because if you cannot expect them to give you a bag of rice. So it is the same way. I said, if you belong to a society, for an example, and you are not an active participant, you don't go for their meeting, you don't money when they say, oh, we have a small hangout to do. If by the end of the year they are sharing a gift, you cannot expect them to give you a gift because you are apparently not actively participate. So the Yorubas believe that you don't want one egg that they belong to another. And it's only expected that when you get to, when you get to Earth, and it is one of our Akosejaye is important. Because when they do Akosejaye, they will tell the parents that this is the Egbe that this child belongs to. These are the things that, you should be doing, or this child should be doing as he grows up. So most of the time, it's not necessary that, oh, you have to even be indoctrinated into a sect. Sometimes it's just, the basic things like, okay, maybe always give alms, always, offer alms with fruits. They may list out certain fruits like maybe banana or oranges. Always give out, certain alms, or, this person is expected to, be encompassing when it comes to children, accommodate children, buy things for children, give gifts to children, because that is what your egbe requires. Now, by so doing, you attract the blessings of your egbe. But let's say, for example, someone belongs to an egbe that requires him to, be loving to children, be accommodating to children, and then he grows up being hostile to children. When children plays around his house, he's always flogging them, he's always chasing them away. What that person does not realize is that directly or indirectly, he's equally chasing away his own blessings. Because you cannot attract what you run away from. It's not possible. And because we now live in an age where, everyone has adopted Abrahamic religions and Abrahamic faith, it has become so difficult for people to even realize that, oh, they belong to this particular Egbe. This is what they must do at this certain point in their life. Some people realize that, you do certain acts, or, you do certain practices out of the blue sometimes, and things just start going well for you. Everything just starts aligning. It's probably because, or it's most likely because, these are things that you are expected to be doing in alignment with your egbe. It is what your society requires. So the Yorubas believe that, and it is why we also have the children that we call the Abiku. These are equally children that belongs to, a kind of society where they are believed to, be stillbirths, born to die. So for every time they come, their rationale is basically to make sure that their mothers, their parents, grieve over them. So they come around, spend some days, they die. Most of the parents make incisions or marks on the corpses. They bury them. When the mother, when she takes in again and she gives birth, she realizes that the mark on the child that she buried is equally on the newborn baby. So the newborn baby spends some days again and the baby dies. So the cycle continues until maybe they now eventually meet a proficient Ifa diviner that knows what ritual is necessary for that kind of egbe, what they are expected to do for that child, not to be able to return back to, his or her egbe of Abiku. So as long as they are doing the ritual expected as the child grows up, it is impossible for the child to die prematurely. But if they now fails to do what is expected, then you just hear a news that, oh, a 14-year-old child, or a child in his prime, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, just slept and did not wake up, or you just had an accident and he died. The Yorubas believe that no one is born to die in their prime. The Yorubas believe that we have 3 periods in human's life. Igba òwúrọ̀, Igba ọ̀sán, Igba alẹ́. That is the morning, afternoon, and night. Now, if a child dies in the morning period, which is the prime of the child's life, it is most likely because the child belongs to an egbe that he has been accustomed to live at that particular point. But perhaps if the parents knew from the beginning and they did the necessary rituals needed, maybe the child would have stayed till noon, or maybe even till night. But of course, everyone is obsessed with Abrahamic religion so much that the things that we are supposed to embrace, the things that we are supposed to appreciate, we run away from. And the things that we are supposed to learn from, we keep doing them, keep embracing our taboos, and then we keep wondering why our lives is south.
Why our lives
is going south.
Thank you. So many things I said and so many things I shared. Thank you for sharing them. I think one of the reasons why I asked a question about, do you know some signs? I don't know. I guess sometimes you may get certain feelings that you're drawn to certain orishas, like Yemoja, for example. Me, I'm from Oyo State. So I was thinking to myself that maybe that there's a link there. because I was trying to trace back where I got it from, but I can't remember. But I have gotten a number of Ifa readings, and they said I've been called to the religion, but they didn't say the Orisha that I was called to per se. It was just a feeling. I mean, for some reason, I always thought, okay, because she represents she's a water kind of Orisha. She represents the water, right? I always heard that, oh, her daughters don't eat fish, all of that thing. So what's your take on that? Do
Mm-hmm.
you know that? I don't know.
Okay, so I feel like there's a problem of information and misinformation when it comes to, because you go on TikTok these days and you just see people say, oh, everyone is omomi, or don't eat
Mm,
catfish, don't do this, don't do
mm,
that. Yes,
mm.
there are taboos that are peculiar
Yes.
to every Orisha. There are taboos that are peculiar to every Orisha. For example, Obatala taboo as an Orisha. Obatala steers clear from palm. It is believed that anyone who is an initiate of Obatala or who is drawn by that Orisha must not be obsessed with palm wine. But of course, there are always room for individual peculiarities, because as much as the Orisha you are drawn to have its own taboo, you are equally an Orisha on your own and you have your own taboo.
Mm,
So sometimes it's not enough to say that, oh, because I am drawn to this Orisha or because I am peculiar to this Orisha, then definitely, what people say are the taboos are the taboos most of the time. And
mm,
it is why it's always necessary when one does an initiation.
mm.
It's always necessary to do an initiation and not assume.
Very
Because when
true.
there's an initiation, they list out the do's and don'ts for you.
Mm,
They tell you plainly that, oh, don't eat this kind of fish, you know, don't do this kind of things, don't go near certain bodies of
water.
water, don't do certain things, don't kill fishes because you are drawn to an
Mm-hmm.
orisha that symbolize
Fish.
that orisha. And one of the reasons why most likely people say these things about people that have ties with Yemoja and
Mm,
not eating fishes and all, is more like they believe that how can you be eating where you are from?
mm.
How can you be eating where you are from? It's just like a human feeding on another human.
Yes.
Cannibalism. So
Very true.
if you are drawn to Yemoja and Yemoja, has an obvious symbolism with the water, with fishes,
Mm-hmm.
why should you be eating, fishes?
Mm,
But of course, it does not mean that when they say fishes, oh, all kind of fishes, or
mm.
don't do this. There are always peculiarities to these
Yeah.
things. There are always nuances to these things. It's always easier and safer to know when one does an initiation than just to assume, because really these days
Yes.
in this social media age, there are a lot of TikTok babalawos and TikTok onisheshes that even them do not really understand what they are doing,
Mm.
but they just want the clout, they just want the traffic. And then, this person just comes into your DM and they just tell you that, oh, I
They
am
want to
Awo
give a
Kini come from
reading.
from
Mm-hmm.
Ilefe, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to do a reading for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even tell someone in primordial times, if they want to do an Ifa consultation for you, the ethical thing to do is that you visit the Babalawo himself. He casts the Okpele or Ifa before you. He does the reading for you in your presence, in your consultation, in your presence. He does the consultation in your presence. But these days, someone will just randomly message you on Twitter or TikTok and he's telling you that, oh, he's a Babalawo and he saw 12 coffins on your head and he wants to do a consultation for you. And how? How does it work that way? Like, no, it does not work that way. But of course, because Isheshe is more like the new gold now, and there's a rush of reawakening from diaspora. A
Yeah.
lot of people from diaspora are trying to retrace their roots and understand where they are coming from. There are imposters who are trying to equally, predate on this fact. The Yoruba say some things that, ojú òní pọ́n babaláwo títí kó lọlé oníbàárẹ̀. So a true babalawo, a true initiate will never go knocking on his client's door that, it's been a while, you came for consultation. Oh, don't you think you should come for consultation? Regardless of how hungry a true initiate would be, he will not go begging or he will not go knocking his client's door. It is the client that is supposed to come to, the babalawo or the onisese that, oh, I want to consult. I feel like I need to consult. But the moment the babalawo starts coming to you, messaging you on TikTok and is telling you that, oh, I am babalawo and I think that you are omomi, how can you just conclude that someone is omomi from their picture? It's weird. It's unbecoming. But this is 2025 and there's nothing we will not see in social media age.
I totally get what you're saying for sure. Like I get it because yes, in social media, there's this opportunity for misconception and misassumptions because people are not truly trying to verify who they are learning from. It's not that the knowledge didn't used to be that accessible before. So there's a benefit to the accessibility, but there's also a con to the accessibility because a lot of times people don't verify who they are learning from. So they're just taking things without, double checking. So it's important that there's that education to people that are listening to understand, find out for yourself, go deeper. Don't just rely on TikTok videos. That's just lazy. Sorry. We can learn from TikTok, yes, but that should just be a beginning of what you're learning. Do the in-depth research, which is reading books, watching videos, learning from people that are actually the teachers, the practitioners of this religion. So that's what I would say. Thank you very much for informing us on Ifa religion and the different sects and misconceptions, because it's always very important that misconceptions are also addressed. I'm going to ask you about another misconception a bit later on. I'm going to start with this question that is sort of sentimental. I wanted to say that, do you see poetry as a continuation of your father's Ifa lineage? Because I believe Yoruba spirituality often merges poetry, chant, and prayer. What do you think?
So there's this concept in Yoruba spirituality or in Yoruba belief system that believes that nothing actually perishes. Nothing actually perishes in family lines and pedigree that even if and the problem is that we don't trace family trees, because if we trace family trees way back, we will discover that even with modernity, what we are doing is a replication of what our ancestors has done in one way or the other. So for me, I've never seen myself as a diviner. I've never seen myself as someone who would sit in one room and be casting Ifa or Pele, but expression has always been my thing. And it's not even coincidental that I create using Yoruba language, which definitely always have me swinging between spirituality and, Ifa, Isese, and all of that. So yes, to a very large extent, I see it as a continuation of, his practice.
And I think that's a beautiful sentiment because it's important for us to always be able to trace our roots. It's the loss of connection to our roots that has made Isese and the Ifa religion to sort of die away or to be losing its transition. Now, lots of people are not, the tradition or the spiritual knowledge is not being passed down generations anymore, which is important for those that are listening and are Nigerians. It's important for us to go back and learn these things so that we may also pass it down. Let it not be lost within us. Let it not be something that is a lost language or a lost religion, So that's very important.
Absolutely.
And when we now trace back, because I'm somewhere that talks about ancestral healing. I write, by the way, and there's a story that I wrote called My House Remembers, which is really just about, I love when you said that Yoruba spirituality doesn't believe that ancestors or people die and then they're gone. Their spirits are still with us. That's one. Two, another thing where you said, they don't believe that anything perishes, meaning that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's only transferred or transmitted.
Absolutely.
Something. So that's beautiful. Because when we trace our roots, we learn about the gifts that our ancestors had. We learn about the curses or patterns that they find themselves repeating. We learn more about ourselves that let us know that, wow, we really are from this lineage. You know what I'm saying? And it's very, very important. So I like that you said that because was your father was an Ifa priest, you are a poet, and when you recite poems, it's like you're making incantations. It's like you're telling somebody, it's like you're reading what they call it, Opele, Abi. what they call, it's like you're reading it for somebody.
Yes,
It's like you're divining. It's like you're divining for the audience, which is a beautiful thing. So yes, I do agree when you say that. It's like you're continuing your father's lineage in your own way, which is the beauty of roots and ancestry. But it's really important for us to know what our ancestors possessed so that us ourselves can activate it within ourselves and let's it continue. That's why you have a family of artists, writers, speakers. It's in the blood, and ancestors before us may not have been able to complete their mission. So it's us, it's not for us to now do it. It's for us to complete it and it's for us to pass it down. It's important for the lines to continue. Even if they don't use it, it's important for them to know it. Because people in my family, on my mother's side, they're very much into herbs. They all had shops where they were selling herbs to different people. It was a family thing. Each of them were taught how to use the herbs, how to administer it, how to create mixtures for people. But who knows about herbs now? Nobody. And there were any of them in a shopping center, each having their own individual shop. None of them were able to now teach it and pass it down. That's a loss there. However, what is the beauty? The beauty of ancestry and gifts is that you still find yourself drawn to these things for no reason. It's in you. So you may not know the knowledge, but that energy, that essence is magnetizing itself to you that causes you to seek to learn that knowledge, to seek to learn in different ways so that you may activate those gifts that your ancestors had, but lay dormant in you. It's always just dormant. It's about finding those things that activate the things. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you because I mean when I look at it, in fact I had a poem. I think it's any Lolubo or something. It was somewhere, it was on the topic of incarnation, and I approached it from the lenses of family tree because my great grandfather was according to the stories I heard, of course, patana. He was a hunter. He was a hunter and was believed to be a very proficient one who in fact heals people apart from being apart from being a hunter. He used people during his lifetime. And then the actual surname he went by as a den was Atamonifa. And Atamonifa literally means the one who ties an Ifa bracelet for someone or an Ifa bead for someone. Now, by the time the generation came on to my granddad, they felt like the Atamonifa was fetish, So they changed it to a family title, Balogun, which is what now serves as my surname presently. So Balogun is actually a family title, which is given to war generalissimos. So they changed from the actual Atamanifa surname to Balogun, and then my dad adopted it. Now, my dad in his early life was into engineering, but things didn't work out until it is logically is the grandson. Is the grandson to the hunter.
Sorry, things didn't work out.
There was still one generation. Things didn't work out while he was into engineering. It was very hard to fend for himself, to fend for family, and also everywhere he kept encountering people telling him that he should go into Ifa practice. He should go and learn about Ifa. He should retrace his roots down to Ifa and do what his ancestors were doing. And then when he picked it up, I was born. When I was born, he was already, practicing, practicing Ifa, healing people via herbs. And that was what he eventually did till the very moment he passed on. Now, my mom came from the lineage of Ayan, and the Ayan in Yoruba are the entertainers, basically the drummers. So all our siblings are drummers. All our siblings knows how to play drums, aside from my mom. And I mean, according to the stories I heard from her, there was a time when she was still youthful that she was following a music band, this Waka band in Kwara State back then. But her parents were always chasing her off. That when you should be in school, why are you following a music band? So that dream was short-lived. But because the entertainment thing ran in our lineage, and then my dad was into Ifa. Now I don't play drums, but apparently, if I do a performance and I do a solo performance of my poem, there's every likelihood that my next performance will be with percussions. So somehow I have found a way to tie,
Wow.
my mother's ancestry and then my father's, ancestry into the single art that I do. And then you meet people who say things like, "Oh, I listened to your poem and it sounds like a talking drum."
Yes.
And they are not exactly wrong, because at the end of the day, it's still
Wow.
the root recoiling back in its own self. Nothing ever really perishes, nothing ever really dies. It's just a continuous cycle. And then, if you pay full attention to the patterns, you would see that, oh, the present is just, a replica of the past.
Interesting. Very beautifully said. I like that you brought your family gifts into it and how you are now incorporating it into present life. I think when I think about myself, I think about how I feel like there's a gift of speech in the side of my family, but there's also the sensitivity that allows one to be able to be highly intuitive and predict things before they happen. You understand? The beauty of family listeners is the fact that when you take the time to observe them, you start to see the gifts that are prevalent amongst you all, especially if a number of you are close. You see what you have in common. A lot of us are writers, we're painters. It's just in the blood, you know? I don't have that natural talent of being able to draw like my family members, but I still have that strong inkling to paint. I don't know this. I don't have the talent, but I have the will. So it's there within you. And it's about observing, but it's also about accepting and then working with it. It shouldn't just be
Mhm.
there. It's not there for decoration. So use it because it is part of your purpose in some way. For some, you're fulfilling the purpose that your ancestors weren't able to fulfill. That's why we have generations. That's why we have bloodlines. We share these gifts for a reason, for it to be actualized in the lucky
Mhm.
person. You know, the person that just says, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this, regardless of what it looks like to everybody else. I'm going to do this because it's my calling. But a lot of us, we deny our callings for the way our society will
Mhm.
receive it. And that's when we now distract ourselves and put ourselves off course. So that's important to note.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are absolutely correct.
Thank you.
I mean, the algorithm brings your paintings to me almost every day now, and I cannot deny that. Yeah, I think beautiful is cliched these days. Like that's like the run to word for everyone. But I find them ethereal. I think that is the word, because I mean I've paid attention to like two two paintings that have crossed my page, and I feel like beyond whatsoever intention you have as an artist, there is so much interpretations that I can give to it if I actually sit and decide to interpret it. And I'm sure that it is the same with a lot of people who, equally encounters these things. I feel like there are meanings in there. I mean, I'm not a visual artist. My
Mm.
ancestors did not have that gift. They were busy looking for drums when they were sharing that gift. But I mean, when I see colors, when I see sketches, it brings an idea. Maybe because I largely think in images
Mm.
when I write, I'm able to see a lot of plots and a lot of beginnings and endings in images. And I feel so far every of your paintings that I've come across in the last few days on Instagram conveys a feeling that you cannot just actually scroll past it. And I think that is something very amazing. That is something very commendable.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it because if I'm really being honest, I'm painting it, but as I was saying, I don't have that natural gift. I just have the love and passion for it. So to be able to produce and then be brave enough to share, and then you see somebody sees it and says, I feel like it's ethereal, it has this feeling and that, it shows that the spirit of what it is that you want to do has been able to be captured on that canvas. And that in its own is
Hmm.
beautiful for me. So thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your support
You're welcome.
for my paintings. I do. Thank you. Now, I wanted to say something
You're
when you
absolutely
said
welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to say something about your grandfather. When you said that he was a hunter, you know, in Yoruba films, the hunters always worship Ogun. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that before, like just before that time, he like your great grandfather, right? And your great grandfather was already aligned with that Orisha, and it just passed down, past your grandfather,
Yes.
went to your father, and then that's how it just. Can you imagine? That is just lovely. That is just amazing. Another example of
Absolutely, because I
ancestral
mean,
gifts.
Ogun is the Orisha in alignment with metals,
Mm-hmm.
works that have to do with metals,
Weapons.
iron, and all of that. So when you think of hunters, warriors, drivers, definitely they are in alignment with the Orisha Ogun. And
Yes.
then the Ogun was practically one Orisha that, even if my dad does not appease every other Orisha in the house, Ogun was that Orisha that I would definitely appease. And when I think of my work, when I think of what I do, aside from the fact that, I always have to be on stage and I have to perform with microphones and all of that, performance gives me a nomadic lifestyle. So I always have to travel. I always have to be in buses. I always have to
Mm.
be in rides. I rarely stay at home.
Mm.
And whether you are a driver or you are someone whose profession always makes you nomadic, you are aligned with your Orisha Ogun in a way because you feed from the road directly. You feed from the road. So I cannot stay at home for 1 month and not, seek to have a performance or two,
Mm.
which means that in a way, my dividends comes from the road. My
Mm.
dividends comes from always being on the road. And there's
Mm.
no way you would go on the road without being a means of transportation, which brings you back to Ogun. So you're absolutely right.
Wow. Yes. Wow. That is really beautifully said. Thank you for sharing these stories with me. And, speaking about performances, you recently performed at the Isese Festival. What was that like?
Mm-hmm,
And what happens at the festival? I was so curious. And, I feel like federal government has tried in saying that civil servants would have the day off, right? But really they should apply it to other people
mm-hmm.
because me, definitely I would have been there. So please tell me, what was it like performing and what happens at the festival?
It was actually a beautiful experience because I think that would be my first time in recent years, you know, actually attending an Isheshe event in a very long time. And, I was particularly glad that, in this age and time, despite the whole religious indifference and, obsession with Abrahamic faith, they still considered it, necessary. Or, even the Isheshe adherents were able to actually get a day for them to practice what they believe in. Different people gathered in there, and the funny thing is, I was at the event, the one I performed in, happened at the temple in Shomolu, and it was refreshing to see that the style of worship, again, I say it that bigotry is a very terrible thing because it blinds you from seeing what is actual reality. The only thing I could, when you go to a church, you sing hymns, you recite hymns, you dance, you make prayer points and all of that. And it's practically the same thing being replicated in Isheshe temples. There is the book of Isheshe hymn. There are Ifa verses that they recite the same way Christians will recite verses in in churches. The only thing that segregate in their worship form in the temple is basically the fact that the Christian says in Jesus' name, and then Onisheshe say Loruko Elodumare, Loruko Awon Orisha, which is the medium they believe in. It was beautiful to see they killed I think they killed a ram or so, made a feast, prepared rice. People in the community came around to eat, and it was basically them just freely expressing freely expressing their spirituality the way they knew best. And as opposed to Nollywood, where you just see You just see everywhere, stuffed with talisman there and one red waist bead. You know, it was another regular day in the office. It was another regular day in the office. They just wanted to commune with, what they believe in the medium they best
Yes.
believed in. It was refreshing and it felt elevating and humbling that, I was invited to actually perform there. It felt good to know that in this process of renaissance for Isheshe, my art is considered even worthy
Mm.
of, speaking or voicing for what they do or what they are trying to achieve. I really, really hope that in years to come, people get to realize that, no religion is really greater or older than being human. Like, no culture, no religion is greater than being human. Everyone should live and, let's live. These people are just practicing what they believe in the medium they believe in it. And really, at the end of the day, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, Onishashi, a Buddhist, Judaist, or whatsoever, everyone still returns
Thank
to
you.
the universe at the end of the day. One, the cord of humanity still binds all of us together. Really.
Yeah, so true, so true. Thank you for saying that. And I think that is ironic that these our religion, our Yoruba religion, has been around from the earliest days. And
Mm-hmm.
it's important for people to start to understand that by educating themselves, they will know that it's time to go back to what we started with, as opposed to what we were brainwashed to doing. Nobody is saying that Abrahamic
Mm-hmm.
religions are wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
Exactly.
space for where we come from, what is aligned with us. Because even the African Americans, they talk about hoodoo and how hoodoo was
Mm-hmm.
created as their own African American religion. They call it as African American religion. And you see the difference in their lives when they're in tune with that aspect of themselves and they're practicing it because their spirit is aligned with what is natural to them, as opposed to the Abrahamic religion, but to each their own. Just make space for our
Mm-hmm.
traditional religions and see how it changes your life. Okay? That's what I would say.
The poem I rendered at the event was the basic idea of the poem was that we are all Onisheshi. And
Mm,
what I was trying to actually establish is that every one of us really, at the end of the day, whether you think you are running away or you think you are sticking with Isheshe, you're actually still practicing Isheshe because we call Asha culture, and Sha means to select something. So
select.
the Yorubas believe that when we came to be as a community, as a society, we were given a choice to select the things that we believe in, that we want to do. So we select, oh, this is the kind of food that are peculiar to our culture. This is the kind of clothes that are peculiar to our culture. This is the kind of songs that are peculiar to our culture. We picked all of these things. I will call them Asha, that which we selected, Asha. And then we say, okay, now that it is Asha, let's make it into Ishe. Ishe, that which we must practice. Asha, that which we selected. Ishe, that which we must practice. And then we have Isheshe, that which we have been practicing from, from day one, from primordial time. So as long as a Yoruba, you are waking up and you know that, if you see an elderly person, you have to, prostrate or bow to greet the elderly person. And if you see an elderly person carrying a load, it's ethical that if you are not carrying anything heavy, you should render help. And then you go to an event and they offer you amala or and you eat it. You are actually practicing Isheshe because Inyo did not come in 2025. Inyo did not come from, Abrahamic religion or from Port Novo. Inyo was one of those things that, were part of our Asha and Ishe. So whether you are actively practicing Isheshe by being an adherent or not, you are still an Onisheshe because as long as you hold your head in the morning and you say that, oh, Kiori mi ma buru, may my head not be unfortunate, you are still practicing Isheshe because the Yorubas believe in Ori as, as the mediator to the creator. So whatever makes someone calls you Olori Buruku and you get angry that the person is cursing you, it is because you believe in the essence of the head. And by so believing in the essence of the head, you believe in that which we have selected and now we are practicing. So I say it every time that everyone, as long as you are Yoruba, as long as you wake up, as long as you do as much as put on, a native Yoruba wear, you are an Onisheshe one way or the other. You just do not, you are just not aware at the moment that what you are doing is actually part of what makes Isheshe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. So many things. So, I'm really being educated here. So I appreciate that for sure. This is like a class because now that you've said all of these things, I want us to even move to the misconception of Eshu being misrepresented as the devil. I know there are a lot of people that are very well versed on Eshu, and Eshu not being the devil are passionate about it because it's a big misconception. Can you tell us who Eshu truly is and why that narrative is so damaging?
So the first thing is, again, I will always have a problem with translations because the very day Samuel Ajayi Crowther translated Eshu as Satan, another problem began. And then, we have still not been able to solve the aftermath of that problem till date. Now, just like we have Orunmila, just like we have Shango, just like we have, Obatala, Eshu is also an Orisha. And Eshu was believed to be, the Orisha with the cunning personality. Eshu was believed to be the Orisha with the cunning personality. And at the same time, Eshu was believed to be, he was more like the policeman among the Orisha. So if you want to appease Orunmila, for example, or if you have problem with, the Yami Aje or, the Yami Oshurunga, and you are appeasing the Yami Oshurunga, you have to appease Eshu because Eshu lives at the crossroad. And every sacrifice that someone is asked to make, you are asked to place it at the crossroad. So whether you are making a sacrifice to, Yami, or you are making a sacrifice on another request entirely, you are still asked to go and place it at the crossroad. So how can you come and place something in front of my house for someone else to come and, take that thing, and you are not giving me any deals? Imagine someone coming in front of your door, or someone just putting a load in your house and telling you that, oh, these people will come to collect it from you. There's no deal for you. There's no percentage for you. So it should always collect its percentage from every sacrifice that is made. So if you go and appease, if you have a problem with Orunmila, for example, and you go and appease Orunmila, and you do not appease Eshu, your problem is not yet solved. Because Eshu is more like that guy that knows everyone. Eshu is that guy that knows everyone. Eshu is that guy that, when you settle everyone, you have to settle him specially. Because if you don't settle him specially, it can scatter everything that you have done.
Wow.
But at the same time, is that same guy that can, go to others on your behalf and tell them that, oh, forgive him. He has come around. He has pleaded. Forgive him. Oh, he has done what is necessary, to be done. He has come to see me. Forgive him. Let's spare him. Is that guy that you cannot hate him? No. You set his dues aside for him. He's believed to be, the policeman among the Orisha, the mediator. He's always at the crossroad, watching everyone. And it is one of the reasons, one of my plans for 2026 is to put out more poetry audios. In fact, all of my poetry audios on streaming platforms. And I actually have a work which is on Eshu. I have a work which is specifically on Eshu, a poem on Eshu. And one of the key lines in that poem is that Eshu does not afflict anyone, but people afflict themselves and they blame it on Eshu. So within yourself. And the thing about Eshu is whether you are taking a good decision or you are taking a bad decision, it's probably that guy that will always lead you on. Like, oh, do it now. And then, when it boomerangs or when it works, it will be there to tell you that, oh, I did not force you to do it. You only came to me and you said you wanted to do it. And I told you that, oh, I believe in your dreams. do it. More like it's that guy that will give you an advice. But if you follow the advice, if it works, amazing. If it does not work, great. You know, as a person, as a guy, that you do not have money. You do not have what it takes to, to fend for a woman. You cannot even fend for yourself. Then you impregnated a girl.
Hmm.
You impregnated her. She gave birth. You are not able to take care of the child. You are not able to take care of the wife. And then you are blaming it on Eshu, that, oh, Eshu has afflicted you. What did Eshu do?
Hmm.
What did Eshu do? How is it Eshu's fault? People, you see, this whole thing of always putting blames on Eshu is basically because humans lack accountability. And I think that is one of the reasons why religion, we always work as an opium for poor people. Because they lack accountability. And because they lack accountability, when you lack accountability, you always want someone to take the blame for your own misbehavior.
Mm.
And because successfully, translation-wise, Eshu has been demonized by Samuel Ajayi Crowther, it becomes very easy for everyone to blame Eshu. So you are walking close to a railway and you hear the train honking. And then you decide that, oh, you can run before the train catches up with you. And then such a person runs and the train kills him. And then people around will say, it is Eshu. This is what Eshu has done again. No, Eshu is always at the crossroad. He's always there watching everybody. He does not care. He's not influencing your decisions per se, but he's not telling you not to do it or to do it. Eshu will not advise you that, oh, don't steal money. Eshu will not tell you not to steal money. And Eshu will not tell you to steal money. Go and steal it. But if they catch you and they burn you, it is not Eshu's fault.
Yes.
He's just the cunning guy there. And then, the whole idea of Eshu being Satan, when I see people, especially in, Nollywood these days, basically, which has, transformed and, morphed into physical religious settings, and they argue that, oh, Eshu is Satan. My argument is always, Yorubas do not believe in angels.
Mm-hmm.
Satan is supposed to be a fallen angel.
Yes.
If Yorubas do not believe in angels, then where is Satan coming from in the Yoruba spirituality? We cannot give a name for that which does not exist. It's just like asking Yorubas that what is the Yoruba word for amoeba? We cannot have a Yoruba word for amoeba because it does not exist in the Yoruba nuances. So when you ask the Yorubas that what is Satan, we will say Satani, Satani. When you ask the Yoruba that what is Jesus, we will say Jesu. We will not say Orumila because we do not believe in Jesus. But we respect that, oh, Jesus exists, in a form of religion. And for the sake of coinage, we say Jesu. But Eshu was not an angel. He was not casted. He did not have any issue with Olodumare.
Okay.
So there is no way, there is no point in which they are meeting. Because again, I keep saying it. If we keep saying that Eshu is Satan, then maybe Orunmila is Jesus. And it does not make sense. Because if you say Orunmila is Jesus, then is Ifa Bible? Is Ifa equivalent to Bible? No, it is not. So people are obsessed with translations fitting into Western optics. And honestly, people will always see what they want to see, regardless of how much truth, regardless of, how much orientation you give them. People will always believe what they want to believe. But at the end of the day, the truth still remains that this the Eshu and Satan, they are way too far apart in so many ways. There's nothing like angels. There's nothing like angels. There's nothing like disciples in the Yoruba spirituality. It does not exist.
Yes.
It does not exist. And then, for example, the Christians are Muslims. They believe in the concept of heaven and hell. The Yorubas do not believe in the concept of heaven and hell. There's nothing like, oh, when you die, you are going to paradise, or, you are going to stand before one God and he's going to judge you. The Yorubas believe that humans are karma for humans.
Yes, wow. Thank you so much for breaking that down. I can see why it's such a damaging misconception, because there are two different things. Like you said, if the Yoruba spirituality does not believe in heaven and hell or angels and all of that, where is Eshu being a fallen angel now linking to Satan? That doesn't make sense. So I totally get that. And spirituality on its own, outside of Yoruba, they even say that hell and heaven is a state of consciousness. It's not a place. It's what we create in ourselves. So I love how the Yoruba spirituality is known as an envelope. It has the same teachings that is outside
Yes,
Abrahamic
exactly.
religions. So thank you so much for breaking that down. And I think that that's a wonderful place to stop. Very educative podcast session. The conversation was just deep and rich. Thank you so much once more, Gemini. Listeners, if you really love this conversation, please share it with your friends. Reach out to us on social media, and I will definitely be linking the link to our Gemini's new book, Ishekwe. Thank you, Arebo. See you next time, and listen to next time as well. Yes. Bye.